The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Hello, and welcome to The Young American. I'm your host, Joseph Bemister. We are live from the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. Find us at iHeartRadio, Podbean, the United Podcast Network, YouTube Live, and the podcast app from Apple. This podcast is fully fact-based. We also share opinions about the government officials, and how it's going, on a good or bad way. This is my libertarian views, my guest's point of view. Today it's Gordy. Nice to have you on. Gordy, you were in the military, right?
That's correct.
You want to tell us a little bit about your service?
Yeah, I served 3 years in the United States Army from 80 to 83. My job was airborne infantry, and I was stationed in Fort Lewis, Washington.
Nice. How long were you deployed or in Washington?
So pretty much basic training was in Fort Benning, Georgia. From there, I shipped over to Fort Lewis and roughly was there for, I'd say, at least 2.5 years.
Nice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So this week we're going to be talking about North Korea, and I've seen a lot on Facebook from you and some others, the opinion on that. A lot of people are crediting Trump for, they're crediting Trump for his diplomacy and how he went through doing what he did. First, he took the kind of like I'm bigger than you approach, and then he took the more, okay, we need to work things out after he moved some carriers, I believe, towards the Korean Peninsula, and that's what they said was actually the reason why Kim Jong-un gave up his nukes, because Trump, obviously he attacked Syria twice, and then when he moved the carrier groups into the Pacific, North Pacific, he got cold feet and abandoned his program, said he wanted to create peace and the war, and all in fear because he thought he was going to get bombed, which in my opinion I think probably would have happened. And
I think so too. With
the way the administration is taking their aggressive approach, I think they said it's a zero tolerance policy on any human rights violations or any threats towards the United States and our government. What's your opinion on that?
I can tell you this morning I read I saw a little clip about Donald Trump back in 1999. He was talking about this, which is kind of funny seeing where we're at. And what he was saying was that we needed to get on this probably way back when, and if we didn't, we were going to end up in the situation we are now. And what he was saying was that the way he would handle it is diplomacy, try and work things out, see what they could do, and then if it didn't go that route, then he'd have to take a little harder stance. And I think that when you're firm with someone and they know that you're not playing around, I think they look at things a little different. And I think that he's that kind of guy that I think, like you said earlier, is that he wasn't putting up with their crap. And I think that he realized that this is not a soft president, and if I keep pushing the issue, we may be on the losing end.
Yeah.
So.
I also think Trump's trade deal with China had something to do with it. He made a deal with China back in early 2017, stating that we'll make more trade with you if you cut most of your trade deals in North Korea. And I believe they stopped sending coal or stopped receiving coal from North Korea, and they cut the fuel in half and slowly started choking their infrastructure, is what they said they were doing. And that's what also was a big factor in them giving up.
Right. Well, I mean, when you take people's money away and you're not making money, it changes your it makes you think twice.
And the most isolated country in the world too, they only have so many things they can export to get money. We talked about Syria, just about this beginning of this conversation. What do you think was going to happen in Syria with Russia and us bombing, or us attacking because they gassed their own people, or allegedly gassed their own people? We attacked them before there was even confirmation of that. Russia was pretty upset with that and threatened war against the United States. Do you think that is a possibility right now?
You know what? I don't think we're heading to war with them or Russia. I think it's. I just don't see that happening. I don't.
And Israel is bombing Iranian sites in Syria, causing a lot of tension in the area. Do you think we'd get involved with that?
No, I'm not sure. I don't. I think our goal is. I mean, obviously, we want to. We're trying to limit. What's going on over there, and kind of, I think they're trying to take a back seat to staying out of their business, really, so to speak. And I think that it's probably maybe a wait and see kind of thing.
Yeah. I honestly, what I'm thinking with Israel is Iran is an Islamic state, not like ISIS, but they're a full Islamic state. They have a supreme leader. They're very tight in their policies, very anti any religion besides Islam, and Israel is a threat to them. For many years, Israel has been at war with people and groups around that region because that land, although was technically taken from the Palestinians, it was given to the Jews as a safe haven, and now it's being threatened, and Israel has to react whether they have support or not, because without showing Iran and the other Islamic states around there, they have power and they're not afraid to take action if you threaten us, which, I mean, Syria and Israel, very close countries.
Right.
I'm pretty sure Lebanon's the only two, a very small piece of Lebanon is separating the two. And when you put air bases in Syria, that they took that as you're putting strategic weapons depots in the areas you can attack us from, and we agreed upon you wouldn't do that. So now we're going to attack you, and they blew up the bases, the weapons depot, and Iran was pretty upset with that. They said it was Israel. Israel denied it at first, and then came out last night. I was on Facebook, and Benjamin Netanyahu's, he's the prime minister of Israel. His Facebook came out, huge paragraph, huge essay really, on why and what he did and the approach they took. And I think that's going to cause a lot. It's already causing a lot of unrest in the region, and I think it's only going to cause more.
How awesome is it that the leader of a country, can take to social media and send out his message to the entire world, regardless of what people's political beliefs are, or in news organizations. If CNN didn't like what he had to say, they would just squash the story and put it on at midnight and say they aired it, but it would be for 1 second. Whereas if they like something or they're pushing an agenda, they'll put it into that every 30-minute news cycle. Yep. But now leaders of the free world, Trump, I'm not always a fan of what he puts on Twitter, but that dude can reach almost every person on the planet with one tweet.
Yep.
And if someone's not following him, the news is going to cover what he tweeted. It just goes out exactly the message that he's looking to send. I love it.
No publicity is bad publicity, especially when it's coming from the president, because you can get bad publicity, but of course he's getting his point across. He's getting more followers. And with Trump's tweets, although I don't completely agree with Trump in his what's the name for that? I forget, his presidency and administration.
Yeah.
I don't really agree with everything his administration's done, but I think he's doing a great job with the economy. And as of this week, North Korea, that's never been done. I don't think it would have been able to be done by any president. And everybody's saying, well, Hillary Clinton would have done it. And now I'm seeing people saying it was Obama's doing. And the South Korean president came out and said, no, Obama had nothing to do with it. It was Trump. And people are praising him, saying he needs a Nobel Peace Prize. And there's one thing if I agree on, I do believe that he should be getting a prize for that. Nobel Peace Prize, I don't know, because he did bomb Syria. But yet again, Obama got a Peace Prize, and he's been bombing Syria and the Islamic State for years.
Obama got the Peace Prize before he did anything. And
Yeah.
then one of the dudes that was on one of the committees of the Nobel Peace Prize came out afterwards in an unprecedented story, an unprecedented act, came out and said that the entire committee wished they had never given Obama the Peace Prize. This came out in 2016, this news, but that they had regretted giving him the Peace Prize because they gave it to him before he did anything, thinking that his presidency was going to be epic. And as far as they were concerned, peace-wise, it was a failure.
Yeah, peace-wise within the United States and peace-wise without of the United States, domestic and foreign. He caused the race war. We talked about that last week with Mike. He was on, And we talked a little bit about how the police officers are being, shot, prosecuted more than they have ever. And we believe that's because of Obama. Whether you guys agree, whether my viewers agree with that or not, that's their decision to decide, but we're just here to voice our opinion on it. Do you think there would be a possible war with Russia? Russia's threatened us, or at least a war in the region, not including us at all?
Like I said, I'm not sure. I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's two powerhouses fighting over that little section. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it will happen. I'm hoping that we kind of stay out of it, mind our own business, so to speak, and see what happens. I don't think so. I don't think we're going to war with Russia. Not anytime soon.
I don't think Russia wants any piece of us.
No.
It's like talking prize fighting with boxers and saying, okay, the bantamweight guy wants a piece of the world heavyweight champion of the world. No, it's not it's not a fair fight. And granted, almost any army right now in the world has some serious military capability, but our defense systems are second to none. We are leading the world in that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's nobody thinks that they have a chance.
No, and that's why we're selling our own defense systems to other countries, because they cannot develop their own. I mean, we have Raytheon, a private company, giving out the Patriot missiles, and the United States has technology that's above the Patriot missile. Like the Patriot missile to us is old technology, and we're just selling it to other countries so they can defend themselves. Which I think is funny because now we know how to bypass the Patriot system, our missile system. So at least that's what I've heard. In that region now, the Turks have decided to go in and try to, it's called Operation Olive Branch, and they're trying to get rid of the Kurdistan and the Kurds in that region that were fighting ISIS. They've gotten a volunteer group of militants, they said, in Iraq, Syria, and parts of Kurdistan to fight alongside the Turks. And there's been pictures of actually these, fighters flying the ISIS flag, the Islamic flag. And, all the black flags, the Al-Qaeda flag. There was a picture I saw of the Hamas flag. And a lot of people are reporting that these fighters are not just freedom fighters, not just regular people who disagree with the Kurds, but they're actually terrorist groups that have sought, gear, training from Turkey. And Turkey, for some reason, they hate the Kurds, and they want to get rid of them out of the region because they pose a threat. And Turkey decided to go right through Syria into the regions where the Kurds were, and now, as of 2 days ago, their French Foreign Legion and the U.S. Special Forces are actually starting to make a blockade from keeping the Turks out of Kurdistan because they're so close now, and then the parts in that region. They do not like the Kurds for some reason, and they're invading other countries and getting away with it. Syria sent free passage for the Kurds because the Syrian government has no problem with the Kurds. Because actually the Kurds were fighting the rebels because the rebels were, if brutally honest, they were ISIS. They were Al-Qaeda. They were other freedom fighting groups, terrorist organizations that were, against anybody who wasn't them. And now you're starting to see that with these people coming out and showing, what unit they're from in the Turkish volunteer group, and they're terrorist units, essentially. And have you seen anything on that?
No, I haven't really got caught up on that.
Ready to go to break?
Yeah, we'll go to break.
All right. What are we going to talk about when we come back, Joe?
We talk about comeback. When we come back, we're going to talk about the town in Illinois. I believe it's Deerfield. The police department there decided to make a tactical decision not to enforce the town's gun ban or assault weapons ban at a protest because a lot of protesters were showing off their assault weapons.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be right back.
Attention cigar smokers or even friends of a cigar smoker. If you're looking to relax with a nice premium cigar or looking for a great gift for a cigar smoker, this is the gift that keeps on giving. Our friends at twoguyscigars.com have created the Cigar of the Month Club. For just $19.99 per month, you or your friend will receive 4 different premium handmade cigars every month. Shipping and handling is included. Contact twoguyscigars.com, that's the number 2, guyscigars.com, and go to the Cigar of the Month Club. You can stop anytime because there's no contract, but you won't. This is a tremendous deal for our listeners. Go to twoguyscigars.com. That's the number 2, guyscigars.com, and click the Cigar of the Month Club. At the same time, if you want to learn about the cigars you receive each month, you can smoke along with them on their own podcast called The Cigar Authority. Sit back, relax, enjoy a nice premium cigar from our friends at twoguyscigars.com.
And we're back with the young American, the kid Constitution himself, Joseph Bemister.
That's me. All right, so we'll jump right into it. Deerfield, Illinois. There was a lot of publicity last couple of weeks, the last month. They decided to pass a bill that said within the city limits, you're not allowed to have an assault-style weapon, which wasn't defined in their bill, but just said assault-style weapon, so they can interpret it any way they want to. After 20 days of that bill being passed, the citizens had to give up their firearms or face a $1,000 fine per day, and that can be very costly. There was a pro-gun rally there, like a freedom rally. A lot of the demonstrators came with their assault rifles, per se, and it's really just sporting rifles that they use to. They use the term assault rifle to make people scared. And the police department decided that it was a best interest of the people, and they made and I quote, tactical decision to not enforce the town's new policy. I think that's pretty awesome for a police department who, in a historically democratic state and region, has decided not to enforce the assault weapons ban, and made a tactical decision to do so. Do you have a take on that?
I really a little behind on gun issues and so forth, but a little bit what I read about was that, a lot of these people at the rally, agree that there needs to be, the gun control laws need to be enforced a little bit better, or maybe, take a look at it, a little in depth. Again, my take is, we have, they're trying to take away a right that belongs to us for, weapons ended up, in the wrong hands of, the wrong people. And I think that we're not really looking at the issue. Is it about the gun or is it about the actual person? So some of these people that have caused this chaos have had, mental issues or things of that nature. And it doesn't seem like anybody wants to address that. It's, let's just take away, let's just take everybody's weapon away. That I have a problem with.
Yeah, a lot of the people on the left side, and a lot of people on the right as well. Some celebrities or people in the eyes of the gun community, people who we look up to. One of them was actually Tim Kennedy. He was on a podcast, I believe, a couple years ago, and said that a well-regulated militia. Well-regulated means a law. There's laws. They're regulated, the militia. When I heard that from Tim Kennedy, he's an army guy. He's a UFC fighter. He's a freedom lover, as he says. He said that he doesn't think an 18 to 19-year-old kid should be able to have a firearm, and he's in the military. He was there. I don't know exactly what age he was in when he joined, but how old were you?
I was 18. I don't agree with that. You know what I mean? I don't agree with that at all. I
just turned 18 last Thursday, and I learn. I'm getting ready to carry a firearm. I'm prepping. I'm practicing, because it's going to be a part of my day every day.
Right.
And right now it is actually a part of my day every day. I'm starting to carry. I'm getting comfortable with it. And other kids my age, would I be comfortable with a lot of kids at my school carrying a firearm? I don't know them well enough to make that judgment. And I think the American government, they don't know these people well enough to make that judgment to give them a firearm or not give them a firearm. And ultimately, it's our freedom, and it's our right to have a firearm. And these police officers, I think, they did a good job of, keeping the people's freedom. As they said, it was in the interest of the people. Just because the government or a small government, bans assault weapons in that town or tactical style weapons in that town because they have a personal, disbelief or hatred towards them, they don't like them. It doesn't mean that it's not their freedom. It doesn't mean that they can't have them. Although technically it does, but the police department decided not to enforce it, and they did a pretty good job with that.
Well, I mean, let's take a look at it this way. I mean, look at the protests that have been happening. Here you have people who, it's a pro-gun rally, and probably one of the most, peaceful rallies that happened. There was no violence, there was nothing, and then, go back to those that want to take away, our, guns from us. It turns out every time that happens, it seems like there's some kind of chaos or, melee happening somewhere where it's, shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
Where, again, I think it should just pretty point out that it's gun ownership in the responsible hands is what it's all about.
Do either of you think that it's ironic that the police didn't want to do anything at a pro-gun rally because everybody was armed?
Yeah, well, I mean,
At that point, it becomes gun on gun.
Right.
And even the police don't want a piece of that.
No.
And I'm not suggesting that the people of the town are going to shoot at the police. But I'm saying you really have to respect the fact that the police, being the government in this case, are looking at this law-abiding citizens with their guns, protected constitutional right, and now do the police want to draw on American citizens and really make that police department look bad, or live and let live since they're not shooting them off in the air like they do overseas? It's just a peaceful rally. Just let them do their thing, because this is going to be a bloodbath, and the exact reason why we have the Second Amendment is so that the police cannot disarm us.
exactly. And, you just said that, came to my mind. That the people pro-guns, when you hear people on the left say, that's never going to happen, never in a million years is a tyrannical government going to stop and look and not enforce their assault weapons ban. If you think you're dumb, it literally just happened. This police, the police of this town decided that, these people were, number one, they could have been, it was just either, number one, because they didn't want to take away the freedom, or because they were heavily armed. And if we try to disarm, essentially it was a small army. There was a couple hundred people there.
Right.
And most of them were armed.
Sounds like a well-regulated militia to me.
It does sound like a well-regulated militia. So people on the left say that's never going to happen. It just did. They stopped. They prevented the police essentially from taking their weapons. Now, was it the police's own decision? The police department made that decision on their own, yes. But, was it fueled or motivated because all these people had firearms and, rifles? I believe so now that you just said that. I think it's more of a constitutional freedom thing. They took an oath and they wanted to upkeep it. And a lot of those police officers, they probably own, those weapons on their own. They probably own AR-15s. Most people who own firearms, the number one firearm right now in the United States is an AR-15.
I think you're giving them a little too much credit. I think they just didn't want a bloodbath.
Yeah.
And that this becomes a PR nightmare. If one person in that town gets shot by the police, it's over for the commissioner. It's over for the sergeant in charge. It's over for everybody responsible. You're just better off picking your battles, and that was not the battle to pick with 200 people armed at a rally.
Oh yeah, over a couple hundred people.
There aren't enough police on that department.
No,
there's no way.
If that happened here in Salem, I don't think there's enough police in that department.
No way.
No, not at all. And it's a small village, and they say it's a village, not even a town. I mean, how many police officers there could have been?
Where the hell is Mike Miles to weigh in on this?
Exactly. Also, if that happened here, what do you think? What do you think would happen, Mr. J, in Gordy? If that happened locally, do you think the police would stop and not take the weapons away, or do you think they'd try to take them away?
I think they'd probably, around here, I think they probably would.
Yeah.
I'm just guessing. I'm thinking that that might happen.
I don't know. I'm thinking that anybody with a good head on their shoulders has to look at a situation like that, and part of their training is to de-escalate problems, right?
Exactly.
So you're looking at this problem and you confront it, and now you have an escalation that's going to happen.
Yep.
If you just kind of stand by and make sure nobody is breaking the law, and you just wait for one person to really cross the line, and now you're justified in going in and removing that one person, maybe you could pick the group apart. But if you try to make a show of force, I just see it going bad, especially in the times that we're living in now, 2018.
We say this jokingly. The gun community up here. We call it. We're behind. We're friendly. We're in friendly lines. And behind enemy lines. We quote. The enemy lines being New York, Massachusetts, and California. And having, people being so liberal around here because they flock up from Massachusetts, they come from other places around the country, to mainly Massachusetts. People get surprised when we get into the conversation of firearms, and we say we carry, we have been carrying, we're carrying right now in the conversation, and in people's faces sometimes they're like, oh my God, and then other times you get the people that are like, yeah, me too.
Right.
And it's very hit or miss up here, so I don't know if that would happen. In New Hampshire, I don't think so, unless it was like a big city like Manchester, Concord, Nashua, which to us is a big city, but to them, that anybody else from anywhere ever, that's a very small city. I think it's funny when I say big city because really to me, Manchester's the only big city in New Hampshire.
Right.
Nashua and Concord, they're very small. But I don't know. I do not think around here police officers would try it unless it was in one of those cities.
When I first started carrying concealed, I told a lot of people. And I told a lot of people because I know a lot of either retired police officers like Mike Miles or current police officers. And I just wanted to have the conversation and make sure I was doing it right because I wanted, I've taken some classes and stuff, but I just wanted to hear it from people that either are on the streets or with years of experience on the streets. And the one thing that kind of stuck out is one of the officers who just retired from Methuen said, you need to stop telling people that you're carrying because you become the target for anybody that wants to do the wrong thing.
Exactly.
So one of the things, and I'm glad that I told the people that I told at the time, but it's something that now it's concealed and I plan on keeping it a secret because it's nobody's business.
Yeah.
Except for the 10,000 people listening to your podcast.
Exactly. Oh yeah.
They're allowed to know because they're with us.
They're allowed to know. They're the only ones allowed to know. And it's not like they're going to see us out in the streets too, or right after.
Well, they have no idea
chance.
what I look like.
Exactly.
I'm just the voice of God. You, my friend, are the star of the show.
He's a middle-aged male. He's about 6 foot. Got a goatee and bald. Look at the Cigar Authority. You'll figure out who it is.
It's a pencil-thin mustache, too. Don't forget that.
Pencil-thin mustache. Yeah, I mean, I started carrying already. At the gathering we had, I was telling a couple people because they were into firearms and asking them questions, although I've already done a lot of research on it and I've taken, classes on firearms. Not concealed carry yet, but I will be. And it's always good to, catch up in your knowledge, get to know what you're doing, ask people for help or advice because you never hurt. Worst they can say is I don't have an opinion on it, or they can call you a dumbass, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
More often than not, they call me a dumbass.
Yeah, I mean, that's a given for you, Mr. Jonathan.
Thank you.
Wow,
you're just jumping on the Ed Chonchio bandwagon, huh?
Oh, it's happening. It's happening. Gordy, do you have any experience outside the Army with firearms?
Back, as a kid, I grew up in North Reading, Mass, and lived out in a kind of wooded area, and, neighbors had guns. We'd shoot in the woods and stuff like that. So it was always, taught respect, for the firearm. And even so, more so in the military. That thing was your best friend. You know what I mean? I remember many a nights sleeping with my M16 in my sleeping bag, for fear of having it taken away from me, and just to have to get it back was a nightmare. So it's been a while since I've fired a weapon. I'm looking forward to kind of going down that path of acquiring a handgun and doing it right. I have a friend who's a retired cop, and he told me the best thing I could do for myself is to take a class. Get familiar with it again, and know everything there is to know about it. And I think if you take that route, it's a smart route. For most people, is to do the right thing and get some training on it and have an open mind to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that comes down to, people say if you want to be successful, surround yourself by successful people. It's the same thing with the firearm community. If you want to know and be proficient in carrying a firearm, surround yourself by people who know what they're doing and, aren't afraid to tell you how it is and give you advice. And they're really knowledgeable people. And it's hard to judge that if you don't know anybody in the firearms community or if you're new. But,
Right.
Police officers, anybody in the military, most people, I should say, in the military and police officers, there are some bad people. I've seen instructors who were at least said they were police officers and ex-military, and they just had horrible, muzzle discipline, trigger discipline, and it just looked like they had no idea what they were doing. So you really have to, find a credible range or, training school around here. That's all it comes down to, is just do your homework and surround yourself by people who know what they're doing, but make sure you know that they know what they're doing. All right, guys. Gordy, thank you for having you on.
Thanks for having me.
As always, guys, thank you for listening. We are live from the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. Please like and subscribe. It helps out a lot. Next week, we'll be talking about the benefits of, in all 50 states, carry permit, which it's a bill right now going through. Should hopefully go through.
Should go through.
Yeah. Why it's a good idea to get a permit in states where constitutional carry is a thing: Vermont, Maine, New Hampshire, and a couple out west. And should the American people fight for more legislation that protects their Second Amendment, such as, blocking small local towns from having an assault weapons ban? Anyone listening to the podcast interested in advertising or sponsoring the show, please contact us. We'll give you the information in the description. Thank you. See you guys next week.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.